I am here as a representative of the EIS, and I'm also here as a teacher, and I've been a teacher for too long, 26 years I've been teaching, and I'm also an EIS learning representative, which is a position that involves study at level 11, and it involves completing a module on how we learn. So at this moment in time, my head is full of how we learn, how adults learn, how teachers learn, and our professional learning. And that's kind of where I'm coming from. So at this moment in time, within the local authority that I work in, which is South Ayrshire, that's one of the roles that I undertake, and so there's a lot of communication goes on about our professional learning. And one of the things that I was thinking about as I was preparing for today was to inform you of that and how very important that aspect of your career will be. Not that it wasn't important before, it's always been important, but it's very much at the front of the agenda, the learning and the political agenda for teaching. And so that's something to bear in mind as you move on out into schools. It might be a good idea for you just to keep an eye on what are teachers saying about how they're learning and what they're learning, and what motives and motivations do they have for their own learning, because that's the way that we help children to learn. If we know more and if we understand more about learning, then we help children to learn. So without any further ado, I'll go on and just discuss with you about your placement. Some of what I'll say here today will have been said to you before, I am sure, and I'm really here just to reiterate that and to get that fresh in your mind as you move on into your practice. It will be enjoyable in some ways, and it will be very much a learning experience for you. This is one of your learning experiences, and from what I remember from 30 years ago, it was a very valuable part of my learning. I loved university and I loved learning, but I also loved being out there and getting hands-on and seeing that real experience and having that real experience of this is what it is to be a teacher, this is what it feels like, and these are the things that are involved in being a teacher. So before your placement begins, you want to be it's very practical things that you really want to have thought about and to have ticked the box of, if you like. You'll want to read all of the notes that UWS have given you, because they're there for a reason. So you'll want to have read through everything and have clear in your mind where you're going. You will, I assume, have started your file and have it organised in some sort of structure. Empty-ish at the moment, or maybe not, but certainly be there and thinking about how am I going to organise my findings, if you like. How am I going to organise my learning and my experience? You will probably know where you're going and probably will have been out to visit where you're going, and that will be very good for you, because you'll have had a chance to look at the route and the journey and how you're going to get there and what times, if you need to catch a bus or if you're getting a lift or whatever. So you'll have those very practical considerations you'll have thought about, and you'll be aware mostly of where you're going. And so all of these things are really important. Another wee thing there about visiting the school website, that gives you information up front. It gives you information about the school, it gives you information about the size of it, about the layout of it, about anything new that's happening or any new initiatives that might be of value to you, that you know, your knowledge of that might be valuable. So before you go, these are all things that it's worthwhile taking a bit of time to do. And I know that time is precious. Time's probably the most precious thing in my opinion. On your first day, very practical advice, try to make a good impression. And you know, simple things like a smile and just be sensibly dressed. I never like saying that to people because I think it's a bit past remarkable, but it's very true. Because if you go in and you are sensibly dressed, then people will have that impression of you as being sensible. You know, so it's a simple, straightforward thing to think about. Arrive on time. If you can possibly do that, you know, unless something terrible happens, arrive on time, be punctual, and continue to be. That kind of thing really does make a difference to a person's impression and perception of you, and so it's worthwhile thinking about. When you enter the school, you'll probably be confronted by the school office. Mostly that's what happens, and you will ask for the head teacher. That's just part of the protocol, if you like. You'll say who you are, you'll say where you're coming from, and you will ask to speak to the head teacher. Now that may or may not happen. Sometimes the head teacher's busy doing other things, sometimes the head teacher's not in school, and you will then be assigned to a member of the management team, and they will come and collect you, and they'll take you whereabouts in the school you're supposed to be going. Another thing that I think is really tricky is try to learn names as quickly as possible. I'm not very good at that. Simon told me earlier he's not very good at that either. It takes me time. I'm much more visual, and I pick up a face very quickly. I know I've seen that face before, and so it takes me a wee bit of time. But it's amazing just how quickly you will pick up names, and it just helps you. I know sometimes I write them down. Just that was that teacher's name, such and such, and I'll write it down just to remind myself. I do that frequently. Another thing you can do throughout the day, really, that's observation. You want to watch, you want to see what's happening, you want to look at how things are organised in the classroom you're in the school you're in the corridors. Schools have very specific rules about things, and if you watch, if you observe, you'll see all of those rules. For example, where I am at the moment, our children walk on the left-hand side of the corridor. Everywhere you go, they walk on the left-hand side of the corridor, or they should. And so you quickly get to be aware of that if you observe that, and you'll be able to take part in that, because we all do it. It's not just children. We all walk on the left-hand side of the corridor, and there are big labels up telling you, walk on the left-hand side. And so that kind of thing on your first day, try to pick up as much as you can. And that just helps you to relax and fit in to that environment that you're going to be in for a few weeks. That helps you to fit in quicker and more easily. There's one here, that point at the bottom. Have you arranged a mode of communication? That's a tricky one, because some teachers want to give you a mode of communication and some won't necessarily volunteer. And the point here is to be sensitive to everyone's different, and they're all different. And as a teacher, what I do when I have a student is I volunteer my telephone number. I always do that, and I do that for a reason, because I know that it's a sensitive issue and it's kind of difficult to ask for someone's number. And so it might be quite a nice thing for you to do, is to offer your telephone number in case there's any information that the teacher would like to give you. Would you like my telephone number in case? And in that way, that opens it up for you, for the reciprocation, and for you to get that back. And then, you know, if it's given, it can be used, and don't feel frightened of using it. Feel frightened of overusing it, but don't feel frightened of using it. If there's something you really need to know, if you have a question and you need to know, then that's perfectly, in my mind, acceptable. And if that conversation between you and the adult that you will be working with mostly has taken place, it should be fine. And it's quite a good thing to have, just in case anything happens. On your first day, you want, as I said, you want to look at how everything is organised. You want to pick up how the children are structured, not just physically, but is there a reason for the physicality of that? Are the children organised so that they work together in language, or are they organised for behaviour? You know, what's the reasoning behind it? How is it organised? What's the reasoning behind it? And just a few questions to the teacher will help you to find out the answers to those. Or observing and seeing what happens will help you to find the answers to those. Look at how the classroom is laid out. Look at how the children collect and get access things within the classroom, and therefore strategies that you can use. Do the children, for example, are there helpers who hand things out? If so, who are they and where do they sit, and do I want to put it on my wee map so that when it comes time for me to do anything, I've got that knowledge and I can use that, because the children will react to that well, because they'll know that, they'll be familiar with it. Very practical things like getting a hold of the class timetable, where they are, when they're out of the room that they're normally in, and where they go and what it's for and who they're with. Specialist teachers, specialist visitors to a school are a very valuable resource, and they're fantastic for me and they're fantastic for you as well. For example, this year I have been teaching for over a quarter of a century, but there was the opportunity for me to work with a PE specialist from a secondary school, and who wanted it? And I thought, well, I do, because I want to see what this person, he must know more than me about that. Even although I've been doing this a long time, he's got a different experience with different people in different environments. I will learn something from him. And so I volunteered to work with this gentleman, and it was fabulous. And the children were fabulous, and I loved it. And that was a professional learning experience for me that I was able to record. But it was also good for the children, and it was also good for me in practical terms, in that I'll take from that the learning that I did and the experience that I had, and I'll be able to use that again. So visiting specialists to your room are very valuable, and it's also worthwhile knowing when they come in and who they come in for, or if they take the children out or whatever. Learning support departments, often they work in different ways across different schools, and all of that is worthwhile you finding out. So you've got a lot to pick up on your first day. There's a lot of, you'll be tired after your first day, because you'll have to look and think and consider everything and take it all on board. Try to remember and record sensitively as much as you can. Watch what you put in writing and who's going to read it. Watch how you word a thing, even if it's just a wee code for yourself if you think it's something sensitive. I'll tell you a wee story. I don't often tell, because I'm a very, very private person, but I'll tell you a wee story. I had a student a number of years ago who wrote in her file that I had told her to do something that I hadn't told her to do. And I'm thinking, why did she say that I had told her to do this when I didn't tell her to do it? One, she must know I'm going to read her file because that's part of my job. And two, there must have been another reason for it. If you know, why did she do it? And so I could only come to the conclusion that whatever it was, she didn't really want to have to explain, and so therefore she said, well, it was me who had told her to do it. And I'm thinking, but I didn't. And I thought, well, how will I handle this? How should I, as a professional, handle this? And what I did was, I didn't say anything to her about what she had written, but I did say to her what I'm about to tell you. Watch what you write and where you write it, because if it's in a log that other people can use, it has to be as accurate as possible. It has to be. And if there's anything really sensitive, I would recommend that you really, unless you're supposed to be writing it down and the university will tell you that, you really watch what you write down and how you write it down. Think about it. Other people will look at your work. It's not just for you. So think about that. Working with other people, fabulous. It's a fabulous experience, and it can be a fabulous good experience or a fabulous not so good experience, and that can come down to a lot of different things. That we're all individual people and we all have our own lives to live, and we're all at certain points in our lives when you meet the colleagues that you're about to meet. Some of them will be heading for a retirement and they'll be very happy, thank you very much. There will be all sorts of people that you'll come across, and that special relationship you have with the teacher adult that you're going to be working with, you want to make it as good as you can, but that can sometimes be particularly easy and it can sometimes be particularly difficult because we're all different, and that's fine. In fact, it's very important for you to have your own opinion about it. But it's also very important for you to have the respect of the other person and what they think about it. And you know, if you really don't agree, I wouldn't necessarily make that point. I would try to be as sensitive as possible. That's probably what I would say. But please have your opinion. And I always try to make my opinion be based upon informed decisions that are based upon reading. I do a lot of reading, a lot of research and a lot of reading. And I think that really makes a difference to me when I go into a practical situation where I see people doing things. I think it helps me understand what they're doing and why. And so a wee bit of advice for you for your whole course: do as much reading as you can. It is a good bit of advice. Within the school, there will be a working time arrangement or agreement. They'll call it different things. It's the same thing. It's a decision about what hours, how you're going to fulfil your duties with regard to your hours. That's probably a good way to describe it. It will have been discussed with the whole staff. It should have been discussed with the whole staff. They are very valuable meetings and they are pertinent to the school. They are important to the school's plan for itself and for the children as a way forward. And you may be unsure as to whether or not you should attend the meetings that are there for staff. And I would suggest to you that you just simply ask, would you like me to attend this meeting? And if you are invited to, that decision is yours, but it might be worthwhile going and just seeing what happens and seeing how it works. It might be worthwhile having the experience of it. And I know you'll be very busy, but it might be quite a good thing to do. It also shows that you have that interest in what's happening in the school that you're in. So if you are invited to go along, and you possibly won't be, but if you are, it might be worth going along. So and they will happen, the meetings will be there as you are there. And just a quiet word with your classroom teacher. I see that you have a meeting. Should I go along to this? What should happen in this situation? And you'll be guided in that way. I've put that wee bit down at the bottom just because that's very much my focus, career-long professional learning. All of it is professional learning. Every single bit of it is going to be professional learning, but there may be a particular thing that you are motivated to do while you're out, and there probably will be. For example, one of the meetings you might attend, you might get some reading, you might be given a bit of advice on, have a read about such and such. That's professional learning, and you can record that for yourself. Now, I'm not sure if the university asks you to do that in your file. If they do, there's the perfect place to do it. If they don't, you can have your own recording of, these are the professional learning experiences I have had within that block. It'd be quite an impressive thing, I think, to put in your file if it's not meant to be there, because you will have those experiences. And when you become a teacher and when you are doing your duties every day, you will also be having and seeking professional learning experiences. And so if you get into the habit of doing that, I think it becomes second nature, and it's a good way to do it. I don't know if that's been mentioned to you at all, but it's worth doing. If you're looking for information, there are a lot of places to find information. The school website, the head teacher, the teacher in the school, they're all of these people. And we should, above all, have this attitude of respect. It is, and it should be. It's very important. It's important for children to see us doing it, and it's important for us to have our working day and do it. You'll also hopefully get the chance to look over policies from the school, and that will give you a lot of information about the school. There should be health, safety, equality policies within the school, and if you simply ask about it, then they'll probably come your way. Someone will find a way to getting them to you. You'll be directed to where to get them. And that gives you an indication of those more, they have to be in every school, and so they're more general practical policies. The EIS website is also a very good place. There's a fantastic section in the EIS website for student teachers, and there's a lot of information on there. And it's worthwhile going in and just seeing what have you got to offer me, what can I learn from you? And you'll get some ideas about coming out onto placement when you go in there as well. Very practical, sensible ideas. There will possibly be an EIS representative within the school, and if you wish to go and speak with the EIS representative about anything, they should be more than happy to speak to you. Some schools unfortunately don't have one, especially some of the smaller schools don't have one, but you can always ask. Just ask your class teacher, and if you feel that the need to go and ask the EIS representative about anything, they will be happy to help you, I'm sure. You can also, there will be a health and safety representative. Sometimes that's the head teacher, sometimes not. But there may also be an EIS health and safety representative, and they get together and have meetings about health and safety in the school periodically. And they discuss health and safety points, and people who work within the school or are within the school can go to the health and safety representative and ask them questions, or they can go to the EIS health and safety representative and ask them questions. And so it's just to let you be aware that those structures will probably be there in the school that you're in. I haven't said enough about it, so I'm going to just go over it a wee bit more with you. There won't be an EIS learning representative in every school. There's only one or two across your local authority. So if you wish to contact them, you can ask the EIS representative, and you can find out a wee bit about their, the kinds of things that they do. And they help teachers to think about their learning, to locate learning experiences, to get together with other people who are interested in learning, all that kind of thing. Professional learning is such an important issue and should be in your mind as well as everything you're doing. Thank you.